Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com. SaaS, RaaS, and now NaaS. Meter is here with networking as a service. That's NaaS. To bring fast, secure, reliable internet, networking, and Wi-Fi to your warehouse. With just one monthly rate and no upfront costs, Meter allows you to focus on getting connected and getting moving. No installation or hardware cost, and just one monthly fee allows IT teams to do more with less. And most importantly, warehouses save time on network troubleshooting, avoid expensive downtime, and get an overall happier IT team. Meter is already powering connectivity for companies with millions of square feet, including Stored, GoBolt, Veho, Trove, and more. Why not add your name to that list? Go to meter.com/thenewwarehouse to get your first month free. That's meter.com/thenewwarehouse for your first month free.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin Lawton at the New Warehouse Podcast with a new episode today. And on today's episode, I am going to be joined by Sung Ruckstuhl. She is the Senior Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer at Manhattan Associates. And Manhattan Associates is focused, of course, on the warehouse segment, transportation segment from a systems and software standpoint. I recently met Ann at the Momentum Conference. They were nice enough to have me over there to check it out in Phoenix, and it was a great time. And we got into kind of a side conversation a little bit about sustainability. And this is something that Ann is passionate about. So I'm very interested to talk to her today about this and about sustainability within the warehousing logistics industry and space. So really interested to dive into this conversation with Ann. So Ann, welcome to the show. How are you?
I am doing great. And Kevin, thank you for having me to talk about one of my favorite topics.
I know. I could tell when we kind of had this little conversation that momentum is definitely one of your favorite topics. And I think it's definitely a very important topic too, not only in the logistics industry, but just in the world in general. But before we kind of dive into that, for people that maybe are not familiar with Manhattan Associates, why don't you just give us a little brief overview of Manhattan?
Okay. Well, I always say sustainability, there's a bleeding hearts element to it, which I'll talk about. Okay. But there's a science element to it. So I hope we're going to be able to talk about both of those today. Okay. So without the passion, but then without the science, nothing real is going to happen. Right. So let's talk about the passion play. So if you are one of the people that pay attention to United Nations, that initially took a stab at defining sustainability, this is what they would say. They say sustainability is a broad and multidimensional concept that addresses the need to balance social, economic, and environmental concerns so that all of our current needs can be met. However, met without compromising the ability of our future generations to meet their own needs. So meet our needs without messing up the future. Okay, that's their definition of sustainability. Now let's talk about the science portion of it, which is what we need to do day to day. And that is a Manhattan definition. Okay. So we are like completely maniacally focused on operating supply chains and omnichannel commerce in such a way that supply meets demand across the whole economic life cycle, from sourcing, manufacturing, warehousing, transportation, inventory management, order management, fulfillment, returns to disposal of the goods in the most efficient, sustainable, which means environmentally friendly,
right,
and socially responsible way. And we believe, we're all about logistics. And at the end of the day, our job can be summed up with one sentence. Honestly, how do you move goods from point A to point B in the most efficient way?
Right.
And it so happened efficiency means savings. Efficiency means profitability. So we truly believe that when we speak to sustainability, that really means that you're going to be able to run a more profitable company while doing good.
Yes, very interesting. And I love the definition there, both on the passion side and also the scientific side, as you said as well. And I think so important there that you touched on the future, right? The future for future generations and ensuring that, we're doing things that are smart for, those who are coming after us and, trying to very much almost, tying it back into the warehouse. I always kind of tell pickers and things like that, when you go to a location, think about the person that's coming after you, right? And it's the same thing with the environment and the world, right? We want to think about, who is coming after us and making sure that we're taking steps to make sure that, they can enjoy this earth just as much as we did when we were here, right? So it makes a lot of sense what you're saying there. And it's great that you point out all the efficiency side as well, because there is oftentimes, some thoughts that if we're doing more sustainable things or, doing these sustainability initiatives, it's going to take away from efficiency gains or it's going to cost more or things of that nature. But I think, as we look at that and we dive into kind of the logistics warehousing space from a sustainability standpoint, I'm curious, from your perspective, from Manhattan's perspective, I mean, why is there such a large opportunity right now to be able to improve sustainability within the logistics industry?
Oh, gosh, that's a good question. I think logistic industry, we are guilty and empowered. Let me explain that. If you look at the global supply chains, right, we generate, us in business, 60% of the world's carbon emission.
Yeah, crazy.
So we are an excellent starting point to talk about efficiency, sustainability, last miles, travel, no unnecessary trips. Okay. 60%. When you want to solve a problem, you look for the variable that has the biggest influence. We're the biggest variable in this whole equation, right? So I would say that's one of the biggest reason why it is important for us to focus on this. And I say window number 2 is, we don't bargain when we're born. And all of us are so lucky to be born in this particular era where we have a very unique window of opportunities that presents itself, where you have the convergence of technology, right? You have of climate change, without getting into religious debate, good or bad, something is changing, and changing human behavior. Those 3 things are converging to allow us with technology not only have visibility and control over supply chain and how we consume, but also with the kind of fire lit up under our behind here, climate change, if you will. I think all of us, no matter what part of the U.S. or the world that you live nowadays, we are seeing worrisome trends, right?
Yeah,
from global warming, it's getting awfully hot, melting ice, rising sea level, extreme weather events, changing precipitation, and loss of biodiversity, right? So you have that climate issues that are accelerating the worry. Then you have the human behavior change, right? I think my generation, your generation, I think I'm older than you, and then my kids' generation, the Gen Zs, we are learning, thank God, from instant gratification to delayed gratification. I think Amazon Prime did us favors, but it also did a lot of damage, right? So years ago, we all kind of go, oh yeah, I want 1 to 2 day shipping. I want same day shipping, right? But today we're good with 2 to 3 days, if not 5 to 8 days. Because you know why? We all learned that even if they come, turns out, according to one of the survey by Ship Metrics, people don't open 85% of what they ordered sitting in their front porch, or in my case, my shoe bench in my front foyer, right? You don't open it for several days. So I think what's happening is consumer behaviors are learning that instant gratification is unnecessary. The delayed gratification on the speed side, which drives our whole logistics, right? Now they care for certainty. Consumers saying, if you can tell me for sure it gets here in 4 days, because I ordered this, table, dining table, and I'm throwing a dinner party on Saturday. If you can guarantee me that you'll get here on Thursday, I'm good. Even if, so, I don't have to buffer that by paying for like overnight shipping. So I think that's changing. And I also think that now green and sustainability is a virtue now. Right. So they're picking brands based on that. My kids definitely do. Okay. I can name a whole bunch of them that's their brand and that's their calling card. Right. And Patagonia being my favorite. You spend more. But it's done purposefully. Right. Then I also think businesses, right. BlackRock started it with this whole ESG criteria. Thou shalt do this on environmental, social, and governance, or we don't invest in you, or we're going to have an issue when it comes to shareholders meetings and electing directors. They want a certain mix. Now, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but it's happening, right? So I think we are sitting in this convergence point where we're enabled and empowered by technology for once to do something. Yeah. The climate issues are creating a sense of urgency, and human behaviors are changing, and we're getting more enlightened, hopefully more self-actualized. That all those three things are happening, and this is the reason why we're sitting on this amazing opportunity to not just talk, we can do something, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's such I mean, for our industry, like you said, 60% of, carbon emissions coming out of the logistics industry. I mean, where is there not opportunity there, right? There's so much opportunity to improve, right? I mean, we're not talking about 0.5%, right? Or anything like that, which is, there's a huge chunk of opportunity there. And like you said, so many things are kind of converging and coming to where, we're getting smarter in a sense as well, utilizing tech to be able to do smarter routes and, being able to, like you said, figure out, what does the consumer actually want, right? I mean, there was this race, like you said, to get to, 1 day, same day shipping, shipping within 2 hours, within 10 minutes, all these crazy things, right? And the reality is, and, I've heard this from several people now as well, if I can know, like you said, exactly when something's going to show up as the consumer and, I'm good with that, then I'm okay if it takes 4 days, it's the same thing, like your dining table example. I needed something, my son needed something for school on a Friday and, it said it was going to deliver on Thursday. And I think it was Sunday or Monday I was ordering and that was okay. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I don't need it tomorrow, right? We need it by this day. It's going to be here by this day. Then, okay, that's good. And, oftentimes too, I think we see where that kind of faster delivery and, trying to get things, maybe it comes in multiple packages instead of one package. And now we have all this cardboard piling up in our recycling and, that needs to be dealt with on the back end as well. So it's good to see that, those things are kind of leveling out a little bit, but there also is a lot of opportunity to improve upon that. And like you said, there's a lot of technology that's coming in that's allowing for those things to improve, but also the consumer, like you said, is making choices, and the younger generations too, I think, are taking that more into consideration. And you see a lot of brands, like you said, that are focused solely on that. I think even I forget the name of the brand that you guys utilized, that momentum for the water bottles. Some of the water bottles you gave out where you were refilling water in there and you could scan the thing. It's telling you how much you've saved and all these things, which I thought was super interesting. Really great thing there. But, when you look at your customers that Manhattan serves currently, or you're looking at the market that you're serving in with your software, I mean, what are you hearing from your customers or the market in general on, how are they feeling about being sustainable and what are they looking for in trying to improve their sustainability efforts and initiatives?
Yeah. So, I am an engineer turned marketer, and so I'm kind of doomed. And I am a student of the market, and I'm a big believer in surveys, which is subjective answers.
Yeah.
I'm even a bigger believer in benchmark, which is a empirical objective measurement. Everybody lined up. We're going to do these. Let's see how well you do. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So the reason I mentioned this is because we're always taking temperature of what's happening with what consumers, what's happening with brands when it comes to, supply chain, fulfillment, and demand patterns. Right. So I can tell you that we did a survey October last year, and it's going to come out again. The new data, we do this every year.
Yeah.
49% of the global consumers put sustainability at the forefront of their purchase decisions. So about a little less than half, right? But only 27% of the retailers make sustainability a top business priorities. So it's interesting. I mean, there's tons of problems to solve. I get that. But you can tell what the consumer said, 49%. What the retailer said, 27%. There's still somewhat of a gap,
yeah.
Right? But that's okay. That's just a data point, right? Based on surveys. And then we did benchmarks. So we launched this at actually April, May timeframe. So you heard about it, probably a momentum called the Unified Commerce Benchmark. And we basically pick 124 brands. They have to be omni-channel, which means that they have physical and online stores, right? Omni-channel. And they are ranked based on revenue. And then we basically went 8 shopping trips, 5 online, 3 in person in stores. We purchased and we returned. And we literally exercised 286 attributes of how well they do discovery and search, how well they do payments and checkout, how well do they do promising and fulfillment, and how well do they do customer service, post-purchase, during purchase, okay? And, self-service type of thing. A lot of people want to check everything out on their own.
Yeah.
Want to talk to a cashier. So there's a lot of self-service element in there. Yeah. But anyways, from that benchmark, we also probed and benchmarked sustainability best practices. And it's interesting. The leaders, which we have a small portion that are ranked leaders, and, then you have the laggers. Yeah. Okay. Then we say, well, what do you get for being a leader? Turns out the leaders have revenue growth that are conservative from 3 times to 6 times that of a lagger. So the leaders make more money. And most importantly, they make more profit. So we look at their practices on sustainability. So here's some interesting facts for you. Publishing their sustainability practices. If they're a clothing company, where do you source your cotton? Right? The farms that you use, are they using sustainability best practices? Just disclosure of that information. Basic, right? 87% of the leaders do that, but only 58% of the non-leaders do it. PDPs, so your product detail pages, right? And when you look for something, you have a bunch of descriptions, there's dimension, all that. There's usually a section that you can talk about, sustainability product information. If it's a fish that you're not, going after an endangered fish, okay, you're in compliance with this and that, things like that. So do you disclose sustainability product specific information on your PDP? Interesting. 60% of the leaders do it, but only 37% of non-leaders do it. And then packaging, sustainable packaging. The leaders are twice as likely to offer that than non-leaders. 86% amongst leaders, 58% amongst non-leaders. So here's some empirical facts that literally tells you that when you look at people that do omni-channel commerce well, people that are making more money, more profit, and what they do when it comes to sustainability, just 3 things that I gave you the examples on. Yeah. Big pretty far apart practices. So I would say that's what we're hearing from both our surveys, our benchmarks, what we're seeing, what's happening. And you were at Momentum, as well.
Yeah.
So, and I was tickled pink to host our sustainability for digital supply chain commerce power session. And I had the CEO of PacSun, Michael Rallick. I had the head of sustainability for Wayfair. Then I had the CTO for MBG Homes, who's all the, the home decorations, big supplier, distributor behind the Walmarts of the world. And it's interesting to hear them say, Michael Rallick for PacSun, he literally would say, that's in everything we do. 90% of their products come from 10 suppliers. So they hold them accountable to disclose what they're doing. But Michael, they track carbon footprint, energy, water use from their head office, their stores, all the way through the manufacturing, raw material sourcing, distribution centers, transportation waste, the whole entire life cycle, right? Because it's interesting. They're going, every pair of jeans take 30 gallons of water. That's a lot of water.
Yeah, a lot.
Their opportunity to reduce that because there's a cost to it, right? For them and for the environment, but definitely for them. They have to pay for it, right? Air freights is going,
expensive.
They cost 30 times more than the ocean freight. He calls them the carbon nasties.
I like that.
I love Michael. Yeah. He's hilarious. I know. So he's going, of course, I'm going to try to figure out some things can wait. That's why his inventory strategy is very smart.
Yeah.
So he's not constantly literally filling it right there. Everything has to be, air freight. Wherever he can do drop ship directly. So he can cut himself out of the loop, right? They do it. And then, of course, they, my kids shop at PacSun a lot because I'm in California. They all surfer kids. Yeah. Okay. And also both ocean and mountains. So I'm a frequent buyer, unfortunately. But they, these kids are really interesting. If you return your jeans, you get a discount. So, and then what they do with the return, they call it pre-loved. Then they go through ThreadUp. H&M just started that as well. Oh, yeah. That's where you can get online, like thrifting, right? And then my kids also go thrifting in physical thrifting stores. It's a thing now. And they love showing up with a T-shirt from my generation. They think it's really cool that I'm looking at it going, what the, but it is cool.
I threw that out a long time ago, right?
Oh, no, they love it when I dig up something from the garage. Oh, yeah. I have mountains of them still, but they love it because they can see stuff and go, yeah, they all the thing that I thought was like the nerdiest thing. They think
cool
it's
now.
Really cool. Yeah, exactly. So our customer care and Wayfair, same thing. The head of sustainability is saying they can't deal with, they want to minimize returns because when they get returns, big bulky items typically, that's expensive. Okay. So what they have come up with is a replacement parts strategy. They know the patterns of defects or replacement. So they have a whole replacement thing globally distributed so that they can actually send it over so people can just address that portion of something, right? Yeah. Eventually they're going to go back to the manufacturer, but that parts replacement strategy mitigated and reduce returns in a major way. And they also partner with Habitat for Humanity and Good 360. I don't know if you heard of them, but these are all, Good 360 is somewhat new to me. I know Habitat because I painted a lot.
Yeah, I've done Habitat too.
But, one donate, right? The other one distribute access goods for maximum social impact, right? So it's really cool. So I think to answer your question a long way, our survey shows, yes, customers care. The brands still have a little bit catching up to do. The level of urgency are not matched, right? Still. The winners who make money, the best retailers for unified commerce, also do more on sustainability with mainly disclosure of information, right? Much more so than the non-leaders. And then the two brands that we had at Momentum spoke at length on what they're doing. So it's a good business and it's very important. And these are all measurable, trackable, optimizable.
We'll be back after a quick break. You hear a lot about supply chains these days, because if the past couple years have taught us anything, it's that an efficient, well-managed supply chain is absolutely critical to keeping businesses successful and consumers happy. I'm Will Haywood, and I host a podcast called All Business, No Boundaries, where we talk about supply chains, how they work, what happens when they don't, and the innovations that are redefining what's possible in the world of logistics. Join me for insightful interviews with thought leaders and industry experts. We discuss how optimizing supply chains can break down the barriers that are holding businesses back. That's All Business, No Boundaries by DHL Supply Chain. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, and I think that is very important to note there. And it's great to hear kind of the creative ways I think that companies are taking approaches to addressing this, because it is definitely still kind of a open playing field, I guess maybe you would say, in a sense of figuring out like what is the right direction to deal with these different things. And you mentioned some of the returns in there. Certainly a huge topic on trying to figure out how to reduce returns and how to handle them in a better way. And I've managed some returns departments myself in my career, and as you talk about the carbon nasties, I mean, returns usually is the nastiest part of the warehouse, I would say sometimes, but it's a difficult thing to deal with, because it's so many variables in the way things are coming, whether it's defects like you said, how do you figure out to cost effectively to repair this, or a lot of times companies end up just scrapping or donating things or things like that. And there's a lot of opportunity there, definitely. But you mentioned there at the end, making sure that you're measuring and tracking and being able to capture the impact and the overall kind of return or savings in a sense of these different things. So tell us a little bit about how a software company like Manhattan is kind of helping businesses make these impacts and being able to track these types of things as well.
Oh, now you're coming to my favorite topic on what we're doing.
Sure.
That's why I joined Manhattan, by the way.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a Silicon Valley cloud, whatever, been through tons of companies and been very lucky. Had a front row seat in this thing called digital transformation. When I came across Manhattan, I've been here for almost 2 years now. And I was going, first of all, we're all looking for toilet paper. So obviously supply chain was top of mind, right? But it's not just that. It is logistically, it's like the most interesting mathematical challenge, right? How do you route things? Yeah. How do you store things? How you maximize the warehouse spaces, every single nano inch in a freight? How do you pack in the right order? So, it's disembarked, if you will, correctly. So I find this both a mathematical and business and environmentally rewarding challenge. And that's what we do, because we're completely focused on operating the supply chain, helping our customers, and operating their commerce in such a way that it meets demand efficiently, right? So I would say, let me start with the consumer side.
Okay.
Because, half of our portfolio is on commerce, which is store ops, right? Inventory visibility, endless aisle, the fulfillment choice of your heart's desire, whether ship to me, pick up in store, no, ship it to another store, whatever, pick up in the curb. We do all of that, right? So let's start with the consumer, because consumers drive the supply pattern, right? So the first thing we do is I think we give consumer more control and more visibility, okay, of the goods that they're trying to buy or return. So we announced at Momentum the availability of our inventory and order management product through Google. Let me explain to you in plain layman term what that means. Sure. We all shop. You're on Google, you're looking for a sweater, whatever, and then you can click shopping, then all the merchandise appear. Now, if you are a merchant, a retailer that use our order management system, then all the product availability information, where they're located, and promising information on shipping, accurate promising information will be right there with your product listing. And Google's big on this because they actually did a bunch of research. They think comparing two different listings, one has location and accurate promising delivery information that you're getting 2 days, you're getting 4 days, it converts 25 times higher than a listing without that information, because we're not just looking for the merchandise, the good. We're also looking for when can I get it? It is important, right? So this back to that thing we talked about earlier. Speed may not be the biggest thing now. It's more certainty.
Right.
When can I get it? And where can I get it? Right. So we launched that. And so I think consumers are increasingly going, you know what? I don't want to call and I don't want to go into the store. I expect to see where the products are, when it's available, and when can I get it? So that level of traditionally store-specific information or e-commerce specific information related to product is now getting surfaced much earlier during the buyer's journey, because consumer want it. They want to make that decision. They don't want to make a purchase decision with imperfect information, right? So that visibility and control is something we give consumers because of our technology. And we're very proud of that, because that also means it cuts down on unnecessary returns, right? So that's one thing. The other part is all about supply chain. So, we allow somebody like you run a warehouse. We have slotting optimization that reduce pick path, replenishment travel. We have cubing and 3D load builders that make sure every cubic foot of the trailer is leveraged and reduce the number of trucks needed. We have late stage order change that our software listen to change orders coming in. And we actually can not make the change or cancel or modify the shipment all the way up to before it gets loaded onto the transportation of choice, a truck or whatever the case might be, right? So, because there's a lot of regrets out there. You buy something, you go, oh, no, I think I need a large, not a medium, in my case. And, oh, no, I want 3 of them. Oh, no, I want this, other thing. There's a lot of, buyer regrets. And God help you if your supply chain is not agile enough to listen and make adjustment, that once they push the buy now button, it's off. That's terrible, right? So it's just inefficient. So from warehousing, transportation, cubing technology, trailer utilization, right? Transportation modeling to reduce things like deadhead miles, the number of shipment and miles on the road, to operational planning. You can actually factor in sustainability emission cost for carriers, mode and the route selection. And also we have this thing called the EPA Smart Way and other green carrier factors that you can include into how you do your route optimization. So how you do planes and trains and automobiles and ships and things like that. And I think we're kind of unique. We are unifying the whole supply chain, because if you optimize just one piece of it, it's almost like you're feeling the leg of an elephant, but you don't see the trunk. You get the tail, you're feeling a portion of it. It's one animal, they really should be connected, right? So because we are cloud native, I love our technology, because you want a good technology platform that is cloud native, has API driven microservices, like little Lego pieces you can mix and match. That means when conditions change, you can reconfigure on the fly, right? So because of that, your distribution, allocation, cubing, transportation are not isolated anymore. They actually talk to each other in a holistic way. So, so that's what we do. And that's what we all about, giving consumer more visibility into the goods and services, and control in this case, and give all the brands out there, whether it's retail, manufacturing, carriers, 3PL, they all have a lot more control over their supply chain visibility, including sustainability metrics. And we're all about less mile travel, don't ship air, naughty, that's a nasty one, right? So our customers, like Giant Eagles of the world, for grocery, they're able to reduce empty miles travel, optimize delivery schedule, improve cubing. How do you reduce split shipment? By the way, reducing split shipment is a big variable. You can reduce it by even 10%. Not only is it cost less for you, right? Just imagine, the downstream transportation, the returns. It's pretty significant, like you said. That's why we all ended up with like when you don't combine shipment, they show up in 3 different boxes.
3
that's
times
a lot
the
of
waste.
trees.
Yeah.
What a waste.
Yeah.
And we all have a pile of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's all great things you guys are doing to be able to do that. And I think the late stage order thing is really interesting as well. And being able to make that change, like you said, because it's ultimately most likely preventing a return from happening as well. And, even preventing like additional packaging from being needed or something like that. Or it's really smart to be able to unify all that and bring it all together. I mean, I did want to ask about one thing, because I saw this at Momentum, which I think was really interesting within the user interface of the system, right? I mean, Hand Active, and when you're doing load planning and choosing, what mode you want to use, there's like an actual icon there. I think it was like a green leaf that calls out like that this is a more environmentally friendly route or mode of transportation. I mean, tell us like kind of a little bit about the thinking behind that and why that's such an important thing to call out in the user interface.
Because our users, even though we pride ourselves in user experience, the fact is, whether you're on the warehouse floor, you're on the dock, in the yard, whatever the case might be, the dashboard that we give you is full of content, right? Full of data, right? So we think be able to call out anything in compliance to the EPA's smart way or any sort of a green label in other parts of the country is very important. So this is a very intuitive and visually compelling way for us to give people that visual element so they can make the trade-off, right? And then, of course, there's the calculation of miles saved and all of that comes with it. So it's very much a design philosophy that we have. And I have my own personal opinion. And of course, assuming the product guys will listen to me, I like how many little trees? Can you just show like each tree stands for some things, right? How much you say. So add the number of trees, right? Almost instead of 5 stars, how about 5 trees?
Oh, okay. I like that.
Right.
Yeah, this one's cool. 3 out of 5 trees, right? Something like that.
There you go. Keep going. You got 2 more trees to go. Yeah. Before you can submit and say pay now.
Yeah.
Really cool, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love that because I think it is like such a, like you said, it's important to call it out for the user, because I think, there's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of content going on. There's a lot of data flowing through. You're doing, you have a big operation. I mean, you're doing maybe hundreds of loads a day, something like that. It's hard to always kind of keep that top of mind when you're just trying to, get everything lined up. So when you're able to call it out that way, and then it's easier to give directive to on like, these lanes, make sure we're using like the most efficient, most sustainable route and mode and things like that. I think it makes it a lot easier too for companies to be able to embrace that and start to make those changes and develop those habits as well, which I think is a really smart thing. So I think that was really cool when I saw that, I think. So, with that being said, and you've given us some great information here around sustainability and how Manhattan's kind of helping to push those efforts forward and all the opportunity that's out there in the logistics industry as well. I'm curious, as we kind of wrap up here, final thoughts, if a company is listening, someone's listening, right, and they want to make an impact on their sustainability efforts, whether it's from a logistics standpoint within the office space or in a warehouse setting, what would you tell them they can do to start with that, like this week? Like what could they do to start to make a kind of an immediate impact or start to take some action for a long-term impact?
I forgot who is the wise man that said the journey of 1,000 miles start with the first step.
Yes.
Same thing with exercise. Just walk out the door. One step. Okay. So I would say start with something, but I would recommend 3 things that are simple, I think, that are actionable and that can make an impact. So I would say, assuming we're talking about brands that have supply chains, right? So chances are you have space for warehousing and distribution centers, right? So I would say the first thing is design your warehouse and distribution center that maximize space utilization. In other words, use what you've got, okay, very efficiently. Be mindful of that, right? Before you go on a real estate buying spree, which, by the way, there are a lot of bargains out there. I get that, okay? But but utilize what you currently have. And I think it's important for people to know we tend to deal with larger brands that have very sophisticated level, 3, 4, 5 operations. So I would say unify your supply chain, slotting, labor management so that you can better manage your inventory, utilize the storage space, reduce the number of material movement, optimize your order picking flows, and right size your packaging, right? So you don't have that cardinal sin of, again, shipping error, right? So use what you have. And number 2, I would say, start to think about your whole transport in an end-to-end way and need to think about that with sustainability in mind. So not everybody has software from us that has machine learning, pattern building, and therefore predictive, and at some points artificial intelligence when it makes decision for you on the most efficient routes, let's say, right? Not everybody has that for smart routing, but you can absolutely start looking at your transport network. Who has electric fleets? Who has, disclosure of information? Who has a smart way that they don't just ship the trucks out, they come back empty? Usually we call the circular thing, you don't just, you have backhaul and you have to think about both directions. So you should never have trucks running around empty, right? So something to think about with your existing transportation network. Then I would say empower your stores. Stores can be so much more, not just the people that work there, right? Yeah. Today, a store associate can do fulfillment. They can do customer service, but you need to empower them with when Kevin walked through the door and you tell them your phone number, they should be able to pop up, oh, Kevin likes Hennessy. Yeah. Let's take him to the aisle that has Hennessy. And that, we have this and that. So they can service you correctly. And if you have something that's unique, they can pop up the endless aisle. They can say, oh, yeah, that particular year of that, of that design, of that whatever age, it's available in the store. It's only 20 miles from here. I can bring it over to here. You can pick it up tomorrow. I can ship it directly to you, or I can tell the manufacturer to ship it directly to you, a drop ship type of thing. So I would say, think about enabling fulfillment from your stores to allow the retailers to fulfill order closest to the consumers, right? Because when they can all be a part of that network for fulfilling, and then you can allow the closest, whether it's a store, a DC, or a large giant warehouse, or directly from the manufacturer, to be able to ship to the consumer in the closest distance way. Yeah. Just by that ability alone, you're cutting down on all kinds of unnecessary travels, right? So that's what I would say: warehouse, transport, and stores. Make a store into a fulfillment hub, at least empower them to have that ability, will be something that I think all of us in business today can do and start thinking about.
All right. Definitely great tips there. And I think definitely a lot of opportunity in those areas, especially like you said, maximizing space utilization within the warehouse and utilizing those stores in a more efficient and smarter way as well. And being able to kind of leverage those. And I think so much of fulfillment in a sense has become so much more than just the typical traditional warehouse type of building. And, we've done so much fulfillment out of stores and things like that. And I think it just makes sense as you try to plan out, what's the most efficient, most sustainable routes as well to be able to do that and where to fulfill it from. And really great tips from you, Anne, here, and great insights too on the sustainability side. So really appreciate you coming on the show and talking to us about this. I know you're very passionate about this, and I think that shines through, and it's great to be able to dig into this with you. So if people are interested in learning more about Manhattan Associates, what's the best way to do that?
Come to our main hub, MANH, I guess short for Manhattan. It's too many letters. So MANH.com. And just come on over and browse around. There's something for everybody, whether you're a retailer on the front end for the commerce side or on the supply chain side. Just come up and take a look at what we're doing. And then, of course, like how you met me, come to Momentum next year. That's when you're going to meet all the smart people from the brands that are not just talking about technology. They have applied technology and made a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for joining us on the show today. And we'll definitely be looking forward to Momentum, and we'll post all the information about Manhattan Associates at thenewwarehouse.com as well, so people can easily find it. So, Ann, thank you once again for your time today.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.